Well, they did it. Somehow they turned this guy into this guy. And now we have to take a serious look at what happens next for one Patrick Mahomes. Let's get after it. This is RGR Football. Welcome in, everybody. I'm Ryan. This is me going rogue. This is RGR Football. And it's a tough pill to swallow this week. I know that, but I appreciate you guys for checking it out. I decided to do this live because my whole plan went out the window, and this is what it comes down to. They got to do something serious to help Patrick Mahomes. I didn't think I was going to have to say this fact, but he is hurting. They have broken him. He has regressed just in the blink of an eye, and there are several reasons for it, but this is the fact. They have to reboot QB1. I hope that you guys will stick with me here. Not the brightest of conversations, but I'll explain why I got here. Normally, I just do the breakdown tonight. Nice to see you. A bunch of our guys in here, FLDB, Cole's in here, Tatum. What's up, guys? Hope you guys are doing all right. I didn't mean to trigger you, Andrew. That wasn't my point. I'm just trying to lay it out there the best way that I know how, and that is to be brutally honest. They screwed him up. And I mean Andy got too caught up in what I think has become a relationship that relies too much on Patrick to bail everybody else out. I was going to get down to the film, and I was going to break down some of the problems, some of the things that made the challenges that much more, right? Couldn't do it. I got through 42 passing attempts, and I started throwing stuff because it's just ugly. I've been catching grief all day because I still feel that Patrick Mahomes is the greatest quarterback that's ever played this game. But Andy let him down this last game. And he then, in turn, let himself and the team down because he wasn't able to rise to the occasion. But the fact that you continued to make just minuscule adjustments. Did they throw a couple of slants in there on the third or fourth drive? Yes, they did. They did try to do a little bit, but by then the protection was not holding up. This is a monumental meltdown of the offensive game plan and the offensive adjustments, and that is on the coaching staff. I feel like after rewatching this game yet again, for the third time, it is very clear to me that this passing game is not prepared to do what other offenses are prepared to do. They protect their quarterback at all costs. This has to be the goal for Patrick Mahomes too. I know he's crazy elite. I know he's maybe one of the best athletes that's ever played this position. And I don't mean just running. I just mean getting out of pockets and being able to scramble. And I think that Andy in particular has gotten to the point where we want to do X or we want to do Z, and we're going to let Patrick figure that out. You got to give him more support because right now I think they broke him. The amount of pressure that he just couldn't even get through his reads half the time. When you have to take what is a wide open offense that allows the quarterback to have every option available to him, and you have to dumb that down to crossing routes all to one side of the field so that he doesn't have to look to his left to see what the pressure that's coming, that is a problem. You have not supported him enough. And there's not much that you can do when you get to this point. People are talking a lot today about Brett Veach letting him down, not doing everything you needed to do at left tackle. That's absolutely true. But that's not the only thing that I'm talking about. Now, before I go any further, I need to say a shout out to our friends at BetUS. They are sponsoring this show, and we appreciate you guys. You guys can get some help from them if you want to get into the action, whether it's on basketball or whatever else, by using this YouTube 150 code over at BetUS. Check them out, and I'll tell you a little bit more about them here coming up. Kurt, nice to see you. I hope you're doing all right. I'm trying not to trigger everybody. I'm just trying to be truthful. And again, that's what the breakdown show on Tuesdays is me telling you the truth from what I see. And by the time we got to the fourth drive, it became apparent to me that he just isn't processing well enough to get things done. He wanted to try and throw a slant. He wanted to try and do something to get out of this, and it led to an interception. A pass that on the route, had it cleared the linebacker level, if he had had another half a second, the route would have cleared, he would have completed the pass, and it would have gone for a good 20-yard gain, if not more. And I think that was the moment that I saw in film where I just saw Patrick Mahomes just go, what the hell is this? Because you just didn't give him enough support. There's plenty of things. This isn't on DJ Humphries. Nate Taylor said today that the DJ Humphries wants to come back. I'll probably do another piece on that a little bit here later in the week. It's not just that he wasn't ready or you didn't trust him or he didn't know enough of the offense. It was pretty shotgun wedding at the end there. I can't blame DJ for having trouble getting into it. But that was your last-ditch effort. You had the option to bring in guys earlier in the year. We talked about bringing in Donovan Smith the whole time, just as an in case of emergency. You heard me talk for the last 3 weeks that, hell, Joe Thuney's playing great at left tackle. I'm really impressed with his performance, but he's still a guard, and he needs to be a guard. You need to find a left tackle, put a tackle in there. They didn't do that. And I think that led specifically to that blitzkrieg feeling that Patrick was not able to overcome. Then he starts making the mistakes. He makes the first interception. I think then it started to get a little glossy. He makes the second interception, and it's difficult at that point to see him try until well into the latter couple of minutes of the third quarter to see him even start to try to pull himself out of that. And that's the thing. And that's the thing that I feel like is the big injustice here that we're not talking about is the coaching staff and Andy Reid in particular, I think got caught doing what a lot of the players on this team do. And that is, hell, I'm going to make my moves. I'm going to do the best that I can. But if I mess up or I'm not good enough, it's okay, because 15 is going to bail me out. 15 is going to make it all good. And I feel like that mentality may have encroached in on the coaching staff as well. And this is the result. That when you don't elect to run the ball in the first 3 drives, and after that, it becomes harder and harder to justify running the ball, even though I would. I know I'm out on a limb there. But you didn't do it then, so you didn't help him. You didn't go to the quick game fast enough to get him in a rhythm and get him out of this condensed feeling that he had. I think that led to Patrick then making bad decisions, trying to force it yet again. Now, I do not believe that the Eagles defense did anything special. I also believe they did blitz once or twice. I don't think it was a 0, as it's been reported. I haven't watched the whole thing back again just to be verifying that, but I think the key was when he was able to get a breath. And honestly, it was either the offensive line figured out, sacked up, and got some stuff done, or honestly, I think the defensive front of the Eagles was like, hey, we got this in the bag. They backed off a little bit. Nothing else changed. I just think it wasn't as ferocious as a pass rush. And at that point, he was able to complete passes. He was able to get some things done. But in the meantime, when Patrick, has a tendency to walk into a ball game and want to go deep all the time, forsaking all else, the run game, the short game, everything else, he's always looking for that deep ball. You have to protect him from himself at times. And they didn't do that. And that's part of the problem as well. So you have this compounding problem that you didn't put a game plan in that had enough variability to adapt to your offensive line getting its ass kicked. And then you didn't have the wherewithal to say, okay, I'm going to change it up so that they don't. How do you help out an offensive line that's getting killed? You run the ball, or you throw the quick game, or you throw screens. Something this team's very, very good at, actually, but didn't get it done. You stuck, and you allowed Patrick to get stuck in that stubborn mentality of, I want to go deep. I have to dig out of this hole, and it just compounded on itself. It's the first time that Patrick Mahomes has looked human rather than just a robot out there. And for the record, like I said earlier, I still believe he is the greatest quarterback of all time. This doesn't change it. It just proves to me that he's also human. And I'm going to stand by that, and I'm going to keep standing by it. People can call me out all they want. Don't go look at the comments over on Locked On Chiefs because you're not going to like it because they think I'm crazy. I still feel that. And I think what has to happen next is the most important thing. Yes, they can still get back to another Super Bowl. Yes, I see a lot of comments, and I don't know if I'm going to address everything tonight because I'm trying to focus on Patrick and what this organization has to refocus on, and that is everything to protect him. Even when you went big, when you went two tight end, when you had Trav stay in, Trav didn't get the blocking done either. Nobody did. And you just ran out of ideas because I believe it wasn't variable enough. That has to be squared away and taken care of. It's a tough road to hoe to fix the left tackle position. Do they think that Kingsley can do it? Maybe. Do they think they bring back DJ? Maybe. You got to draft somebody. You got to sign a free agent as well. I think that could lead to rebooting a lot of the offensive line. And maybe that's what has to happen. But it all has to go back to getting Patrick back to the point where he feels safe in a pocket and has something that he can go to rather than just trying to make a play with his feet and find a guy downfield, because that formula isn't going to work anymore. They're going to see this all year long. A lot of teams already emulate the Fangio defense. Hell, if Steve Spagnuolo took a head coaching job today, I would say go hire Vic Fangio. Would have been my answer before this game as well. So you're going to see this. Teams are going to employ this strategy to try to do this again, to get him flustered to the point. And you have to be able to have an answer. Run a jet sweep. Run a toss crack, for God's sake, and get the running back to the outside edge. The problem, I think, that led to Andy not doing that was mostly Sweat. And it's not that Sweat in particular was doing anything like to earth crushing. He was getting the better, especially when he was blocked by a tight end, but certainly against Taylor at times too. But it wasn't like the back bending that you saw Joe Thuney have to do, where he was literally just falling back for dire strength, trying to not go down. The big thing that Sweat did is he disengaged. It wasn't what he did when he was engaged, it's that he disengaged. And so when Patrick tried to roll and tried to do what he normally does to bail himself out, he got outside the pocket and boom, there was a loose defender right there. He wasn't engaged anymore. Taylor couldn't keep his hands on him. And so it's not like you're in a one-for-one battle where both linemen have each other, by a hand or two or whatever, and you can get back and forth. It's, I'm going to drive you back into Patrick's lap, and then I'm going to disengage, and I'm going to be able to go wherever I want because you're not doing your job to stay engaged with me. That's a problem. On the other side, Joe Thuney got long-armed way too much. We knew that was a possibility. Joe's got the arm length that is different. It's guard length, not tackle length, and we know that. I can't, again, blame Joe Thuney. He was put in a position that he had actually been able to excel at, but nobody went at him this way, and he just wasn't able to handle that because he's not a tackle. In particular, the interception, it comes up as Patrick's trying to deliver the ball. It's because Joe's getting pushed back into him, and he had to do that hop set to try to get his anchor back under him, because that's what happens when you have arm length disparity that is your disadvantage, and they're just getting into your chest plate too much. Nothing you can do about that at that point. Should have had a tackle out there. And I just want to illustrate that this series of decisions is what led to the performance that you saw from Patrick Mahomes. And I think he got rattled. And I think even by the end, I'm not sure that he recovered. I think it's going to take a while. I hope that as this turns, what we're going to see is that there is a little bit more focus on football. That there is less, let's have less commercials. Let's do a little bit less stuff. The timeline hasn't changed because you still played in the Super Bowl, so you didn't even get a week back. But it's got to be a little bit more just focus, not just for him, but for everybody else. And understanding that this was a problem that you helped create. Fangio took advantage of it. Kudos to the offense in Philadelphia as well. They got the better Spags on a couple of times. Now, the short fields, I think, contributed to that. If you had just given up the 2 touchdowns and you had held Barkley in check like this, I think this is a much different story. The interception for 6 obviously turned the tide, but it was not just on the offensive side. You could have played better on defense too. I think they stood up, and I thought they were the best unit on the field, but there's always room for improvement there, right? So I'm trying to put it that way, that this is what I'm seeing. I'm going to grab a couple of your questions because I think you guys had some good ones, especially give FLDB and Cole, our moderators are in the house, Tatum and Daniel and Kurt, a bunch of our regulars. And I know it's weird to have a Tuesday live stream, so it's nice you guys to hang out. I appreciate you. Let me get you a little bit of my obligations from our guys over at BetUS, and then we're going to come back and I'm going to take those questions.
The best way to get into the action is with BetUS and their deal with code YouTube150. You can start playing today with that exclusive offer. You can get into all the football that you want, whether it's this week's matchup for the Chiefs, whether it's getting into the season-long odds against Super Bowl, against the division. The Chiefs are heavily favored in a lot of those, but there are plenty of bets to be made. And you can do it all at BetUS, where you can get 150% of your deposit bonus up to 3 times and up to $2,000. Use YouTube 150 today at BetUS.
Okay. So, David, thank you for the super chat. I'm going to get to you real quick here. And we're going to go through some of the topics. I can't answer everything tonight, folks. I'm too fired up, and honestly, I'm exhausted from this. So I'm going to take it kind of easy tonight, and we'll get a few of these in, and then we will get after it, and we can all take a deep breath and try to get back. Daniel, thank you for your comment. I love the show. Just want to say that the lack of running the ball didn't help either, and it just not putting Tooney back inside as well. And I think those go hand in hand. Different media sources, especially those that had offensive linemen on their casts today, whether it was big shows, local shows, even here in Denver, local shows that have linemen all recognize that it wasn't just Joe Tooney. You can't put this at Joe Tooney's feet. And you can't even put it at Caliendo's feet. Yes, he got beat up, but he did the best he could, and he had some positive plays. It's not like he was, a kindergartner out there playing with professionals. It's the fact that you degraded 2 positions and didn't decide to fix it when you had options. If DJ Humphries wasn't an option, why isn't he on the injury report? If DJ Humphries isn't an option, why is he active? Are you telling me that you didn't think that he was good enough or better than what Wanya Morris would have given you, who's been injured all season but has put in an effort? If that wasn't an option to have an actual tackle play the tackle, then why the hell are they there? Because what you did is you degraded 2 positions on that left side of the line. And that's part, and honestly, I think it's the heart of why the pressure got to Patrick maybe faster than we've seen before. Because it was in the first drive, the first third down. It's just too much from the guy's blind side. It's been a tough year for him. He's been hit a lot. The protection's been iffy a lot. And I think Joe's done an admirable job. But I think if you wanted to really protect and do the best you can for your quarterback so he can be who he is, you would have put the best guard in the league at left guard into left guard and found a way to supplement. And if that means you don't get to run 5 routes out of a given formation, you have to keep a 6 lineman or a tight end, you have to keep them in the block, then Andy, that you have to do that. That's what this has come to. You have to do that because you haven't been able to hit on enough. I would love it if Kingsley would have been given the time to mature and actually become the left tackle. I still think he has it in him, but I don't know. I don't know where he is mentally. And they certainly pulled the plug too early. Something that Andy Reid doesn't do with offensive linemen. I just feel like the whole thing was rushed and was put out of perspective, and they lost focus on what has to happen for Patrick to be Patrick. And I think, honestly, Mahomes then started making his mistakes like he does because he presses too hard and he looks for the deep ball too much. And he was unsatisfied with taking what they were giving them in the middle routes where you actually can get the ball out. If you go back and look at the snaps where he delivers the ball quickly, it works. It would be slow and meticulous. It would probably be frustrating for him, but it would have worked. You would have moved the ball. And that is, I think, the biggest letdown where everybody's tendencies took over for themselves in a negative way. Cole, thank you. Is it possible that Travis comes back but decides to pass the torch to No Gray as far as starting goes and just acts as a mentor for the younger guys? I don't think so. Guys at that level, they don't come back and become backups. Quite frankly, I don't think Noah's in a position to do that on an every down basis anyway. Here's what I do hope. I do hope that the last year's offseason, after a couple of Super Bowls, after a couple of 20-game seasons, left Travis as expended as he looked to me most of the season. And I've talked about this all season long. I just felt like he was exhausted a lot. I felt he did pep up after the bye week. Certainly the playoff bye week. I don't know what happened in this last game. I don't know if they were comfortable and complacent or whether the exhaustion just set in again. I don't know. But certainly, I still feel like Travis, coming into the season, had 3 or 4 seasons left. I certainly still feel like he has at least one left. But it's got to be about, I don't need to go on tour. Obviously, I don't need to do TV shows and stuff like that. Like, if he's going to do it, he's got to be focused. Because at this age, that difference in focus and attention to detail is the difference. You can see in the way that he blocked, it wasn't quite there, not only in the Super Bowl, but down the stretch for a lot of the ball games. Just wasn't the same quality as he's had in previous seasons. Running backs hit walls. Tight ends usually don't. So I don't think that it's like, oh, he's just done because he's run out of juice. I do think there were extenuating circumstances, distractions, time, healing, recovery that last offseason he probably didn't get, is my thought. So I say, let's go get healthy. Let's work soft tissue. Go get some rest. You don't need to be flying around the world. You don't need to be in New York every other weekend. Go chill out. Do your pod. Be at home. That's what I would tell Kels if he was sitting next to me right now. But I like the concept, Cole, and thank you for bringing it up. David, I agree with you, Ryan. O-line has to be the priority this offseason. Nothing else matters. And it has to be beyond just right now. It has to be projected for the future. You've done a great job with Trey and Creed. Obviously, you have Creed under contract. Trey is likely to get more money to go elsewhere. I know he wants to be in Kansas City. I've heard that from multiple people who've spoken to him, beat reporters and the like. I know he wants to be here, but for him to make his best life choice is going to be about a bigger contract for his family, etc. I can't blame him if he leaves. So you have to continue to hit that well. Is Ethan Driscoll going to be your left tackle of the future? I can't see it from here. I'm a little more optimistic than Dan was last night, but Dan was also feeling, the stress of that game. I do think you have to continue to invest in day 3 players that you think can grow, but you have to get to the point where you can find somebody that will let you trade up to get an actual talent that can be a lock-in. And unfortunately, as much as the trade for a quarterback is very expensive, the trade for a guy to protect the quarterback is going to be expensive too. But it's to this point that they have to do it in order to reboot Patrick and get him back to the path that he was on. The path that he was on just a few weeks ago when they played the Bills, when he looked electric and like a surgeon with a scalpel cutting them apart. I told you in the game plan, they had to follow a similar script. Not the same plays, but the same concepts as they did against the Bills. Had they done that, they whooped this team. And there's no question about it. And I don't care if you're an Eagle fan watching this later or somebody from another team. That is the fact. Because when he is on, he is on. And I don't think there's any defense for it. Kurt, Calia should have never touched the field this year. He's certainly a downgrade. I'm not gonna blame him that he's not Nick Allegretti. This is the chance you take when you let talent walk. And I can't blame him for letting Allegretti walk. Good for him. He got paid. They couldn't afford it. They needed to get younger. They felt that he could step into it. I think the biggest problem this season was the projection of the development of the offensive line, individual players. It weren't Joe Thuney and Creed Humphrey. That's what it feels like to me, is you felt like Caliendo would grow. You felt like Kingsley would grow. You felt like Wanye would grow into a role. None of that happened. And it's not that the coaching's bad or the scouting was bad. They're not bad players. Something happened here where it wasn't enough, and you overprojected the development those guys would be able to put in this season. That's what it comes down to, in my opinion. Thanks, Kurt. Thank you. Is Kingsley not an option for the future? Seemed like he had promise in camp last year. He certainly did, and he certainly is an option. I think they will give him a shot, most likely the first shot, to be the left tackle next season. It's just that he hasn't played in so long, and there's the talk of the guard stuff. Evidently, somebody told me, and I didn't hear this firsthand, but he was warming up rather steadily at one point in the Super Bowl. I would have let him go in. I don't know why they didn't. I'm not sure what that is, but something's got to change there. And draft pick capital that you put on Kingsley, he will get more opportunity. There's no way around that. Dub Freak, nice to see you, buddy. Don't know why they didn't use Hendershot to help chip block. I agree. I don't even know. In fact, let me look it up because now I really want to know. I don't even know how many plays he got. I don't know what his snap count was. And I'm checking it right now. And you know what it was? A giant goose egg. That's another variation that could have gone. Bring in a sixth offensive mind like the Bills do. Absolutely, freak. Yes, Patrick sucked, but the dude's getting swamped. I mean, swamped isn't even it. He was underwater. It was crazy. Thank you. And thank you again. I also think it was arrogant of each not to bring back Donovan Smith. I don't even know if it was arrogant. That's fine that you think that. I'm not trying to argue that. I'm just saying there could have been a circumstance. He did have a significant neck injury last year that led to numbness down his arm. It was a stinger that just never healed. And sometimes at that age, it won't. So maybe there was a legitimate reason, but there were other options at the time too, beyond waiting for DJ to get back from an ACL. You could have done something because, again, you put too much on the projection. You put too much on the expectation of development, just like Andy put too much on the expectation that they were going to be able to get behind the defense. That's why they didn't come out in the quick end. That's why they didn't run, because they felt they're going to give me a four-man rush and a bunch of zones. I'm going to be able to pick that apart. They were wrong because they couldn't protect. It was just miscalculations, I think, in planning for both aspects, to tell you the truth. Let's see here. Sorry, I got you again, but thank you, and I do appreciate you. Scott, thank you. Did the fact that the Stars only aged 2 games in 6 weeks have an effect on chemistry? They pretty much had 3 bye weeks. I don't think so, because especially for that group, even Tooney with Caliendo coming in, if they were just out of communication or something, then I would say, yeah, maybe that was a factor. But I didn't see that. They were just getting out physicaled. They're getting manhandled, bull rushed to death. Which the number one thing, if you are physically outclassed in any level of football and the pass rush is beating you, run the damn ball at them. That's it. That's the answer. Find different ways. Run counter, run jet. I don't care. Pitch the damn ball. They didn't get into any of that. And I think that's on the play caller. And for everybody who wants to blame Nagy, I think that's on Andy. I don't think Nagy was the limiting factor here in getting into other sets and other looks. Notorious, nice to see you, bud. I think it's personally the difference between Bieniemy and Nagy is the reason for the loss. I think I know where you're going with it, and I agree in terms of like the attitude they bring. You got to remember, Eric Bieniemy was a running back. He's a hard-nosed SOB. Most of the people in the league do not like and do not want to hire. But you need an SOB. When Andy Reid, a player's coach, a grandfatherly kind of figure, is your guy in charge. Nagy is a guy who wants to throw the ball and be creative and almost too finesse, but it's not that he's not capable. It's just a different attitude. That's how I see it. And so I won't argue with you on the point. I'll just get there on the different route, buddy. Appreciate you. And Flapjack, I love the rant. You're saying what I have been screaming. Okay, well, good. I'm glad somebody else sees it the same way I do, because I've been called a lot of things in the last 48 hours, and crazy is one of the nicer ones. So I will take it. And this is about as clean as I could make it. I will do a members piece a little bit later in the week when I calm down, probably, or maybe even next week. We'll try to do that. But I wanted to give you guys what I'm seeing. This is the breakdown because that's the truth. The way I see it, right, wrong, or indifferent, it is what it is. So I'm going to leave you with that. And I'm going to go spend some family time and try to relax a little bit. Hopefully the rest of the team is doing that. Hopefully Patrick is doing that. And they can come to a point where they can go to the next level and you can reboot QB1 Patrick Mahomes. And hopefully I won't have to say this again. So have a great night. Thanks for joining me live on a Tuesday. Dan's film tomorrow. We'll see what he brings. He hasn't told me about it yet, so it should be entertaining. Gary on Thursday. We'll have something for you on Friday as we start turning to the draft as well, but try not to let go of this one too fast. Have a great night. Thank you, guys. Nice to see you. We'll catch you next time.